They say sequels are never as good as the original. For every Godfather Part 2, there's an Exorcist 2, The Heretic. The late 70s saw a series of titles that aimed at cashing in previous efforts. Airport 1975, French Connection 2, a third film, Airport 77, and Jaws 2. It was a corporate exercise that shed light on the public's ongoing thirst to revisit familiar faces and moods. The birth of the movie franchise was well underway in America, and the rock festival business was not to be left behind, but it was. The United States did not really hold these type of events since 1974's California Jam, Ozark Music Festival, and August Jam. Stadium shows kept going with bigger setups and all, but the business side of things went for low-risk, winning combinations instead, a main headliner with a few supporting acts. 1975 had the big fish return of Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and the Rolling Stones coming back to the States January through August. They got all the money, all the groupies, and whatever made them happy. The US had a couple of massive concert attempts through the Ohio River Festival and Miami River Music Festival that, as you can see, tried to build momentum for groups whose popularity was still in the works. By 1976, there were basically three main American festival events: the Mississippi River Festival, the long-running Schaefer Music Festival that started back in 1967 and saw its last concert year in 1977 through the Dr. Pepper Central Park event, and the famous World Series of Rock held at Cleveland Stadium. The list of names who played Cleveland by 1978 is impressive to say the least. But despite the exceptions, the more the live music industry evolved, the more promoters, business partners, and bands wanted to stay away from big open-air Esplanade type of events. The collective spirit was gone in favor of private gains, record label games. But there was to be one last rock festival hope, a 70s encore if you may, and 1978 seemed like the perfect year to make it, considering the investment risk. Looking at US inflation stats at the time, you can see how 1974 through 1977 tried to recover from the oil crisis and Nixon's monetary shock. 1978 had a window of opportunity, as there was disposable income right before 1979 came along with yet another oil crisis and the evil recession waves going into double-digit inflation. And so the winning team of Leonard Stoegel, Sandy Feldman, and Don Branker set out to revive a 1974 hit, California Jam 2, the sequel. Note, if this is your first time checking out my channel, I recommend you watch my California Jam 1 series for the proper context before you continue. Don Branker was the most familiar face for music fans as a frequent host for ABC's In Concert, which went off the air past April 1975. Both competitor shows, The Midnight Special and Don Kirshner's Rock Concert, kept going well into 1981. The American public's demand for live music remained the same, but the TV effect slowly lost its momentum, with big names stepping away from this format. It seemed bands didn't need help from the tube anymore. It's crazy to think ABC's In Concert was a show that didn't make it through the late 70s, considering California Jam 1974 made them a ton of money. And it was precisely money what made the idea of a sequel a sound business proposition. Also, it had been 4 long years since the original, and younger kids heard the stories. They wanted that on the rock and roll experience bucket. ABC's participation this time stuck to broadcasting the event, so the production team partnered with Wolf and Rissmiller Concerts. The team of Steve Wolf and Jim Rissmiller played a key role in developing arena rock as we know it. Their business really took off after working on the Who's Anaheim Stadium Show 1970. Based on the photographs, it was a huge event and a sign of things to come. By 1976, you could spot their name on many California West Coast events for the hottest shows in the country and discover new talents in the process. They arrived at Rock and Roll Money. By 1977, clients included Queen and Comes Alive Peter Frampton. With Wolf and Rissmiller being synonymous of rock shows in California, it was just natural an agreement was made for California Jam 2 to take place on March 18, 1978 at the Ontario Motor Speedway, which pretty much saw race truck events only since 1974. Hosting another massive concert at the Speedway was great for business, just 2 years away from closing its doors forever. Also, just like the first edition of the festival, 1978 had rock and roll's trifecta off the road away from America. Pink Floyd was in post-Animals vacation time, Led Zeppelin isolated themselves from the press and the industry, while Robert Plant questioned his rock star life after tragically losing his son. The Rolling Stones hadn't played the States since 1975 and prepared a comeback of sorts that would take place until June 1978 to promote their new album. Now the big Cal Jam question: artist selection. Who was the right fit for the festival? First things first, could they bring back some of the California Jam 1 names for 1978? The answer is no. Deep Purple disbanded in 1976, the Eagles didn't need festivals anymore past Hotel California, Black Sabbath wouldn't come back to America until August, Black Oak, Arkansas didn't chart in Billboard past 1976, Earth, Wind & Fire were huge but off the road past February, Rare Earth's 1977 self-titled record charted at 187, while Seals and Crofts faced a similar fate, but it was more like the natural cycle of fame. They knew their time was up. Emerson, Lake & Palmer, though, could have been there, as they were on the second leg of their North American Works Tour, which ended on March 13, 1978 in Rhode Island. But ELP had its days numbered by then, and later headed out to Love Beach for a strange 70s finale. You can watch my episode here on the channel. Just like 1974, a total of 8 artists were originally selected for California Jam 2, but as we will see, this number changed as they got closer to the festival's date. A fascinating list that was approved by Ontario, California's City Council on the producer's premise of going for a soft rock approach. And just like 1974, government officials bought it. So let's take a look at the reasons behind the artist selection. Aerosmith were 5 albums into their prosperous career that made its big break in 1976 with Rocks, charting at number 3 on Billboard. This led to a snowball effect of crazy touring, excess, and Draw the Line released in December 1977, charting at number 11, with a historic concert date total of 536 shows by then. That's more than Led Zeppelin's entire 12-year run, and some folks thought Dream On was sung by Led Zeppelin. By March 1978, Aerosmith were 8 shows away from finishing their triumphant Express tour. They became one of the big names in the concert business, and everyone crossed their fingers this lineup would last into the 80s. Aerosmith was one of the biggest American bands for California Jam 2. Yes, the personal lifestyle choices of some bandmates were moving liabilities, but the truth was they had the hits, the street cred, and the performance. TV-wise, Aerosmith played the Midnight Special on August 16, 1974. At the height of their powders and powers, they were ready to rock Ontario's Motor Speedway. Next on our list, Ted Nugent. Nowadays a polarizing name, or maybe always a controversial figure, but in the 70s the man was selling tickets. He had a stranglehold on that style of guitar crunch, almost filling the gap for previous Black Oak, Arkansas vibes. Uncle Ted was Jim Dandy Mangrum turned electric guitar messenger. Nugent became the regular opener for many gigs, including Aerosmith, Johnny Winter, Leonard Skinner, Nazareth, ZZ Top, Kiss, and Aerosmith again. His name climbed up the ranks into a headliner of sorts, including Summer Jam 77 with special guest Black Oak, Arkansas. Well, tables turn, right? He played 133 shows in 1977. The timing for his California Jam 2 appearance was just perfect with his most recent album, Double Gonzo Live, released in February, as he played 21 of 88 US states that year. It was his highest charting album so far, past 3 studio albums where Catch Scratch Fever managed to climb to Billboard's number 17 position. But above all, the best thing for California Jam fans was Ted's classic lineup of Cliff Davis, Rob Grange, and the great stage Thunder Intuition of Derek St. Holmes. Nugent was a showman, yes, but it was the group's sound what really cracked America. A guitarist is only as good as a supporting cast behind all the crazy string attack. Just ask Jimmy Page.
Step out on the town. Don't just drive. Take off in the 1978 Thunderbird. With its distinctive look and size, its Thunderbird quality and comfort. And it comes at a down-to-earth price of $58.08 with automatic transmission.
Okay, moving on. Foreigner. Quite an interesting choice considering they only had one album out prior to California Jam 2. Where some of Atlantic Records' favorite artists faced troubled times, Foreigner emerged as a much-needed winner to keep the label on the rock and roll game. They became Atlantic's definite golden child in 1977, made up of both British and American musicians. Their debut picked at number 4 on Billboard, which explains their 84 concert dates scheduled that year, to promote Hot 100 single Feels Like the First Time. But it wasn't the first time for its bandmates, including Mick Jones's previous stints with Spooky Tooth, and former King Crimson alumni Ian MacDonald, now looking at his bank account grow, rightfully so. Led by the potent voice of Lou Gramm, they seem to be fulfilling an Atlantic Records wish of rock and roll going back to hits, where some of their peers were either burnout, self-indulgent, or a bit experimental compromising profits. I like to think of Foreigner as counter-inflation rock in response to the US economy at the time, maximum efficiency and minimal risk. I don't mean to downplay their skills, quite the opposite. It was a well-crafted product with heavy expectations on top. Loved by many and criticized by some as a calculated corporate thing, Foreigner changed the game for years to come and influenced countless bands going for their hard and soft rock formula. They seem to be kind of faceless yet popular, something many bands tried before but failed. It was down to the music, playing what the United States needed at the time. Their 1977 tour saw them play opening slots for many bands including Heart, Uriah Heep, and Ted Nugent. Festival appearances that year signaled into California Jam 2's artist selection. A quick rise to stardom, they delivered the goods, and nobody could resist the power of modern classics like Cold as Ice. By March 1978, Foreigner was 5 dates into the last portion of their US tour. California Jam was to experience the most commercially successful band with a sound everybody was chasing to some degree. Remember Sly and the Family Stone? Well, they broke up in 1975. One of the members of that band, sax player Jerry Martini, got a little help from his friends and established Rubycon, not to be confused with Tangerine Dream's album. American Rubycon was a San Francisco-based band that seemed to come out of nowhere, with another former Sly and the Family Stone member, Dennis Marcelino, on vocals and sax, plus 2 future Night Ranger members, electric shredder Brad Gills on guitar and Jack Blades on bass. It's hard to find information on this band. It feels they woke up one day and headed out to California Jam. Their historic show list by March 1978 had 33 performances at small clubs in California. They released a single, I'm Gonna Take Care of Everything, in February 1978, just about the same week as Sweet's Love Is Like Oxygen entering the charts. Their debut album was apparently released just days after California Jam 2, so it's hard to figure why they landed a spot on such a massive festival. I'm sure it wasn't for the album cover. It's forgettable to say the least. The music though, tight infectious funk, great musicianship that maybe was a bit dated by 1978, but nevertheless worth checking out. So yeah, they were a festival underdog, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make big business. Yeah, their album cover reminds me of Van Halen's 5150, like a first attempt at it. Yeah, just a bad album cover. American rockers Heart were technically 2 albums into their career, with the splendid sounds of Dreamboat Annie and Little Queen, both hot-selling records spawning 6 singles. Highest Billboard charting tracks were of course Magic Man at number 9 and Barracuda at number 11, but overall their adventurous music style blend of hard rock, fantasy, soft textures and Led Zeppelin fandom remains a fascinating journey to this day. It's no secret guitarist Roger Fisher was a Jimmy Page admirer. We can spot a double neck guitar and dragon pants. Barracuda had that Zeppelin feel to it. Exquisite vocal harmonies rounded up the band's powerful arsenal. The Wilson sisters knew how to rock, and you could expect to find Led Zeppelin covers at their shows in the ways of The Rover, Stairway to Heaven, Rock and Roll, and Battle of Evermore. Now Heart had a nasty feud with their previous label, who released Magazine in 1977, but they managed to stop distribution of the album before re-releasing it a year later. Songs here include Kiki D's monster hit I've Got the Music in Me, which they've been playing since 1975. You can check the making of Kiki D's album here on my channel. Heart had a 65-date concert schedule in 1977 with little to no cover tunes, with heavy emphasis on their material. Word of mouth on their live show experience grew, and it's no wonder they landed gigs like Oakland Coliseum's Day on the Green, May 1977, next to big rock and roll names and the emerging Foreigner craze. Heart seemed to fill the void left by some British rock bands, while bringing back the female protagonist spirit, like Janis Joplin was in the late 60s. The Zeppelin influences were tastefully incorporated into the music, managing to find themselves in the process. There's a 95% chance a Zeppelin fan will enjoy Heart, and vice versa. They played 6 shows in 1978 just before heading out to Ontario's Motor Speedway, with a somewhat shorter set list than their average length, but nevertheless, a unique lineup with passion to leave audiences crazy for them. But as much as California Jam focused on emerging names, there was also room for experienced rock and roll cats. Going for Santana was definitely a throwback to Woodstock, and well, San Francisco's golden guitar child, more like an adult now, wouldn't hurt the festival's dynamics. Santana experienced a comeback with 1976's Amigos, entering Billboard's top 10 positions. While the band's studio output of Welcome and Borboleta was artistically fulfilling, it pushed some of the record buyers away. 1977's Festival was a surprising letdown as the lowest charting Santana album, but Moonflower peaked at number 10 thanks to its potent live selection alongside various studio cuts, including their terrific cover of She's Not There. The old Santana lineup was pretty much gone, and CBS did everything they could to keep Carlos's brand relevant. Now the band's live stats remained profitable throughout the decade. They sold a lot of tickets. 1977 had 100 shows spread over 11 countries, with the United States the main market at 55 dates, including the Day on the Green festival next to Peter Frampton. Santana pushed Latin rock's possibilities to the max. Intense workout jams, fast guitar solos, intricate percussion riddles, and feel, lots of it. But there was a writing on the wall for new material that would sell. I call this the Foreigner effect, and Santana slowly ventured into such trails. Past a lengthy late 1977 Japanese series, the well-oiled machine entered the North American leg of their Moonflower tour with 28 shows before their scheduled 7-song setlist at California Jam 2.
If you need 6-passenger space, if you need a roomy trunk, if you want mileage like the millions of people who need a full-size car, then the full-size 1978 Ford L78 is the car for you.
So besides Santana, there was another artist who remained a critic's and cult favorite ever since his departure from British band Traffic. Like Carlos Santana, Dave Mason was signed to CBS at the time, and while he had a promising start with his highest charting album to date, 1970's Alone Together, he struggled all through 1974. Not even a live album worked. A self-titled release brought him back to the charts, but then a similar on and off playbook with success until 1977. His Let It Flow album spawned his highest ever charting single, We Just Disagree, peaking at number 12 on Billboard. A 41-date US tour followed, showcasing his name as an acclaimed songwriter whose Traffic fame always did him favors. 1978 began with 17 shows in the States, February through March, where he was supported by one very special guest, Bob Welch, whom, like Mason, was also known as a former band musician, not Traffic, but Fleetwood Mac. Bob Welch was elected for California Jam and sure had his own solo career highlights. Yes, he recorded 5 albums with Fleetwood Mac but left in December 1974, over both personal and group tensions within. His departure, of course, left the road open for Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham joining the band, and the rest is history. Welch's timing was something the media used to haunt him, as in, why did you leave Fleetwood Mac just when the band was about to explode? But like many passionate artists, Bob followed his heart and muse. He tried to go power trio with Paris, featuring former Jethro Tull and Nas bandmates. Both albums didn't generate a buzz and left Welch in dire straits. He was not broke, but walking towards financial collapse. And so he embarked on his first solo album produced by the same name who did Sammy Hagar's records at the time. French Kiss was released in September 1977 with a Billboard peak position number 12, a hit album that made a lot of money. Hit single Sentimental Lady peaked at number 8, adding to the hype around Welch's big break as a solo artist. Mick Fleetwood, Christine McVie, and Lindsey Buckingham were guest musicians on this song, and you can help to feel this is one of the greatest Fleetwood Mac songs that ever was. Also, Sentimental Lady was produced by Christine McVie and Lindsey Buckingham, so there you go. Welch was featured in the Midnight Special on February 3rd, 1978, which kicked off his solo North American tour that kept him quite busy through the year. Now you wonder why he was paired next to Dave Mason. Yeah, I get it, both great songwriters, but Welch's sound was better suited for heavier sounding artist bills. And I dare to say he was closer to the Peter Frampton style. This makes me question if Dave Mason got Welch into California Jam, or was it the other way around? Based on sales numbers, I'd go with Bob. Also, why didn't Fleetwood Mac play California Jam? Well, they were taking some time off after a busy 1977 agenda. The artist bill for California Jam was now complete. Now if we compare it to 1974, it feels a bit more calculated as opposed to the variety of styles the first time around. The 1978 bands were all worthy contenders, but their repertoires shared some sonic similarities, including a soft rock common denominator for at least half the names there. There was no Emerson, Lake and Palmer nor Deep Purple, but 1978 had Foreigner, who provided some of the British rock heritage for obvious reasons. While Aerosmith was a heavy rock and roll act, there was a sameness to their electrifying stage show. Highly passionate, yes, but linear, like Grand Funk linear, where Foreigner had more angles to their concert offering. Cal Jam 2 was to be successful, no question about it. The artist selection, though, felt like a familiar episode that US fans had seen already. With some big names off the road, this was it, take it or leave it. And this may explain why the sequel has been somewhat forgotten by the media and rock revisionists. But wait, there was a late addition to the festival. If Heart were Led Zeppelin fans, virtuoso Frank Marino was devoted to Jimi Hendrix, and Mahogany Rush was his vehicle for rock and roll expression. Their concert history included opening spots for Aerosmith, Queen, Wishbone Ash, Black Sabbath, Johnny Winter, and Black Oak, Arkansas. A cult band to many, they were incendiary, playing their heart out on every show in full power trio insanity. They were the perfect fit for California Jam 1974, you know? I wish they had a better publicist back then. By 1978, there were 5 studio albums into their career, switching over to CBS Records in 1976 for their 4th installment. US market numbers wise, the American record buying public wasn't going crazy about them. Their highest charting title was Child of the Novelty, peaking at number 74. I checked out the albums to find the reasons, and well, produced by Frank Marino himself, they're pretty straightforward records going for a live in the studio feel with obvious Hendrix layering influences here and there. My best guess is the public felt they'd rather go for Jimi Hendrix instead. Also throw in the band's name and there was a conflict of Canadian Rush products out there. With the birth of instrumental guitar heroes in the 1980s and beyond, I think Frank Marino and his band were ahead of its time, as the late 70s United States was not the best place for what the power trio had to offer. American audiences seem to want the singer to do just that, sing, or if a talented guitarist offers some radio-friendly tunes to the mix. Virtuoso cats like Marino belong to the late 60s spirit and should have been huge in 1971, but such is life. Mahogany Rush's 5th album, World Anthem, was released exactly 1 year before California Jam 2 on March 18, 1977. It peaked at number 184 on Billboard. Yikes. But you gotta give props to CBS for keeping them on the label as they went out on tour, and a smart decision was made to record a live album that was released just in time for California Jam 2. Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush Live kicks. Seriously, one of the great concert releases of the 70s that brought new life to their studio work as well as showcased their blues cover skills, plus one Jimi Hendrix number, Purple Haze. Although their live record peaked at number 129, and this came out in February 1978, no human on this earth who dares to say they love music can help to headbang to this colossal display of technique. Mahogany Rush was a great addition for California Jam. Their raw and organic approach brought much needed danger where Ted Nugent just couldn't. Sorry, Ted. I know you're wondering, why didn't Van Halen play California Jam 2 with their debut album out by February? Well, it's simple. They were booked for a March 18th Evansville, Indiana date, opening for Journey and Montrose. It was their first world tour and they would be busy all through November. But yeah, Van Halen would have been the perfect fit for California Jam and Journey and Montrose. So 1974 had the iconic rainbow and backdrop trees with interchangeable stages. 1978 was a different story. First off, they put a roof, as there are rumors that it rained for the past 2 weekends before the event on March 18th. Strangely enough, I checked Ontario, California's historic weather reports and found no rain at all, just cloudy conditions. A much more potent sound system was incorporated on stage. It was double the number of speakers from 1974. Unfortunately, the plants were smaller this time and there was no rainbow on site because ABC's In Concert was cancelled back in 75, so it's fair to believe that prop was destroyed. Also, Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow used one on stage by now, so you couldn't fool rock and roll fans like that in 1978. A replacement was made in the ways of a boring banner with the festival's logo. You wonder why they didn't build a new rainbow or come up with something else. The stage looks cold as ice, lacking the personality of the previous edition, almost as if the US inflation absorbed their creativity. CalJam 2 based its marketing materials on the 1974 hot air balloon thing that flew over the festival. Not having the rainbow hurt the continuity side of things, as a good sequel must have some connection to the original idea. Ontario's Motor Speedway and main host Don Branker reprised their roles. Tickets were priced at $12.50, just $2.50 more than the first time around. Some 350,000 fans attended the festival, that's 100,000 more than the original, so it was a financial success. But was it a musical event worth attending? Find out the answer in episode 2 of the series, as we'll take a look at every performance in detail. What went on behind the scenes, what was the crowd's reaction, and what was the festival's aftermath. Thank you very much for watching, bye bye.